Hey, good morning, family. I'm not going to be on here too long, hopefully, but I had to this morning. Yesterday, I spent uh, part of the evening watching. We need to talk about Bill Cosby, and I'm not here to I'm not here to basically like condemn Bill Cosby or nothing like that. But I do think that in talking about Bill Cosby as the catalyst for this conversation, that we do need to have some real conversations in the Black community, period. Like we just really need. This is not a thing of going to the politics of the case or any of that kind of stuff. I do think we need to be having courageous conversations about that particular topic and that issue in our community because his case is so layered. I mean, I so wish it was cut and dry. It doesn't make what he's done. We're not condoning or condemning or whatever, but I feel like there needs to be a conversation before you criticize this. We need to talk about Bill Cosby. Go watch it. I watched all 4 episodes. I finished it this morning because I had to rewind some stuff back. First of all, go watch it. Don't, I think some of us as a people, because it's not all Black people, but some of us have to stop being so damn ignorant. Like, we got to stop with these preconceived notions of that we think we know what's going to happen. I also believe this. Some of it is complex, and some of it is flat out supporting culture that does not value its women. Now, I know. See, because when I look at stuff, I don't look at it quite the way other people do sometimes. And maybe sometimes I do. But as I was looking at it, I was those people who thought that all the accusers were white women. I mean, because that's what I was hearing. You know what I mean? But as I watched these 4 episodes, if you will, to this docuseries, the other women were more mixed race. I'm not going to give them the Black woman title. They were mixed race people. So I want to make sure when people are mixed race that we give them credit for that. They just don't get to be just the Black woman because obviously they weren't just the Black. They were mixed with something because Mr. Cosby, I guess, if you will, he had a type. And that's okay. But I think we just got to, it's just so complex. But at the bottom line of everything, there is this need sometimes in the Black community, not all Black folks. So some Black people, because I'm going to start saying some, because I don't want to, all Black people ain't down with some of this shit. Let's just be honest. That's why some of us move away from each other and we take our chances in the wilderness because sometimes in our so-called Black communities, it's like we support madness. And so sometimes, you have to go away and just take your chances in the forest or in the wilderness, right? So I do think, I would hope that we need to talk about Bill Cosby will make us reflect on people in our own community where these behaviors are, where we know we've seen things, and we got to stop acting like just because somebody paid for you to eat or paid for you to go to school or helped you pay your rent or gave you a job, that constitutes payment for you giving out sexual favors or having sex with somebody or being raped or being fondled or being, it's an equated, because every time I hear Black folks, not some Black folks talk about Bill Cosby, it's always this thing of like, well, he gave us money and it's like, y'all stop. If somebody did something that's morally wrong, say that is morally wrong, like what they did was wrong or whatever it was that was wrong, but don't try to even it out. Because what it says to me, and this is my honest to God truth, because the work I do is with girls and women. That's what I do all the time. Sometimes what it says to me, it really shows you how much we devalue women and girls. Like there is a direct correlation between self-worth and self-value in our community as it pertains to how we feel about girls and women. We know that in the Black community, whatever that is, because that's looking different all the time, that we know that I hear horror stories when I'm working with my young women and girls and grown women about how they were molested, or how someone molested them. I'm trying to get my language right, because I think I want to make sure the onus is not on the victim. How they were, how someone molested them or raped them, or and then nobody says anything because this person helped your mama pay the rent, or this person took y'all in. Or we gotta stop with the making up excuses or wanting to pull out the racial shit at the wrong time. Like, we talked about separating a man from his craft, because I heard somebody say that in the docu-series. And I think to myself, when can we ever separate race from a person's actions? And is that possible? Or do bad people get to always hide inside a race when they're wrong? Now, here's the truth. There were some very glaring things in there. I took some notes. I'm probably going to watch this again because I was taking notes. There were some things that were made. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if I believe the white woman. I'm not going to lie, because I understand history. See again, because I'm watching this. But I guess it was hearing the one sister who was mixed race. There was something about what she said that made sense to me. It felt very familiar to me. I've sat with so many women who shared their stories like that. I also think that when you have these discussions or this conversation, that you have to have a balance. I think there was maybe like 2 people in the documentary out of all the people they interviewed who still had alliances with Mr. Cosby. I would have loved for people to have been honest and say why they were supporting him, or at least have some of those. Like, he tried to get some people and they didn't want to talk, because I get that too. But I feel like we got to have an honest discussion. And then what do we do with people who are rapists in our community? What do we do with people who are molesters in our community? What do we do? This is not my job to protect them, because I think asking the victim to always protect the victimizer, that's another thing we do. That's why I can't get behind social reform movements, because I think they're a bunch of bullshit, because I feel like the victim doesn't get any justice in this at all, because you're trying to reform somebody. It's like you could do a crime and then we're going to fix you. You know what I mean? We know that there has to be punishment. There just has to be punishment. It just has to be punishment. So I don't have the answers, but I would pray and hope that this trailer, this movie, we need to talk about Bill Cosby, because we need to talk about not just Bill Cosby. I mean, I just think he's the catalyst. Sometimes people are the catalyst, if you will. But I feel like we know that these people exist in our community, and we don't do anything, and we don't say anything until it knocks on your door, until it's your daughter, until it's your sister, your mom, your best friend, your son. God forbid if it's your son, then the whole goddamn world stops. Because we know in some Black communities, when something happens to the male, everybody protects the male. But we don't do that for the female. We know that. So I would hope that this docu-series help us to have the conversation. I don't think it's for you to necessarily say, I'm against him, or this is right or wrong. Maybe it is for some people, but I'm more interested in having the conversation so we could hear people share what they, our thoughts on this. Because here's the other thing. Our young people are watching how we react to this topic. They're watching us. They're hearing what we really believe by the way we react. They're watching to see, if you're going to believe them or not, by the way you respond to what they share. This is real talk, family. They're watching to see if we're going to be like, these women was all lying, before we even hear what the person's going to say. They're watching that. They're watching that. You know what I mean? Because action always speaks louder than words. They're going to see how you respond. I would say this. So I guess in the video was something like 60-something women that responded. We must be foolish enough to believe that all 60 of these women sat together and said, we're going to bring down Bill Cosby. That means there's something wrong with us and our warped thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, and then young women, girls, we watch that. We watch to see how we're going to react to this. I'm like that. I'll watch a person's reaction more than the person that's talking. I'm watching what people who are saying when they're not talking. You know, when I watch us rush to make excuses for people's behavior because you want to defend your son or your lover or your good friend who helped you get along or whatever. You know, a person who helped you to hide your dirty secret. Maybe inside of you, there's some criminality in you. Maybe you've done this before. So you feel like you're protecting yourself by protecting the person. You know, I put this image up right here of Mr. Cosby because that's kind of what we're dealing with. You know, I did grow up watching the Cosby Kids, the Fat Albert. I'm from North Philadelphia, so I'm from Philly. So Bill Cosby could be my granddad. I mean, I'm just saying in terms of his energy, his image, he's a man who was like the great teachers I had that I loved dearly, who taught me all through school. You know what I mean? And so then we have to say in our mind, what happens when, so this is and this is my honest to God true family. This is something that I'm struggling with. I am really struggling with the fake unity of Black people. Like, I don't want to talk like we together because I know we not. I don't want to talk like we're all connected because we do live in a racist ass country here in America, you know, so we have to act like it's us against the man, but really it's just us against us. And so we have to have these hard conversations inside of ourselves. Like, how do we check ourselves when we're wrong? How do we make ourselves be accountable? Like, how do we do that? And is it possible for us to do that? So I will tell you this. I think you should sit down with yourself, or if you feel comfortable to sit down with some folks, watch this docuseries. Now, the only thing that and maybe it's because nobody would want to do the interview. So I'm going to get a brother that. But I also feel like I didn't see a lot of Cosby supporters on there, but I know a lot of Black people support Bill Cosby. And when I hear them supporting Bill Cosby, it's always like, well, he fed us, or he gave us education, or he paid for my schooling, or so what, he took some pussy. Like, like it's kind of, we say that violating a woman is like getting a glass of water or something. You know, like it just doesn't have any real legs when we know that all of us come through the womb, which is the woman, right? So if she's not feeling good about herself, if she's not treating herself good, if she's having experiences that will damage her, you have to live in that when she conceived, when you're coming through her, when you're living in her. You know what I mean? It's kind of like wanting fresh water, but you keep peeing in the water. How can the water be fresh? So my thing is this thing with Bill Cosby, I feel like, or R. Kelly, or Russell Simmons. I mean, I could just keep going. You know what I mean? It cannot be this conspiracy that everybody's out to get the Black man. Like, I think we got to kill that, because that's kind of like, I'm not saying it ain't real, but I come from the people, we always knew who our enemy was. But that does not mean we cannot administer justice with each other if there's a such thing. Because I'm starting to question that if there's a such thing as us being able to work together as Black people to be just with each other. I don't know if that's possible. I'm being honest about that. Because nobody wants to pay the price for what happens when you're wrong. And I just really feel like we're going to have to be honest. Looking at these two faces on this picture, you know, looking at Bill Cosby when he was young, A Piece of the Action, Uptown Saturday Night, Man and Boy. I can go down the list of all the movies of Bill Cosby I love. I still watch them. I ain't going to front. I really do, because that's a part of my psyche. When I want to remember the time my mother was alive and my father was alive, I watch his things because that relates me to them. I grew up watching that on Saturday mornings, or on at night or whatever. Like, good movies that made us feel good, that made us laugh. That whole thing. You know what I'm saying? That's one piece. But then what do we do when the person who gave us the image can be harmful? And why is it so hard for us to have this conversation when people have two faces? So that's, I mean, because it's so multi-layered when you put Black people in it, and when it's one of us, it becomes very difficult to have this conversation. Because right away we want to go to, well, history, and we want to go that route. But it's like, well, damn, when I ever get some justice as just a woman or as a girl, when I look at Black femicide and see that every 6.5 hours, a Black woman or girl is murdered in America by a Black male, and you want me to talk about racism, I mean, to focus on that and like, fuck your life. Like, I just really struggle to understand that. I'm the type of person, I know that racism exists, but I know I can't hang my answer on it. I come from a people that if we had waited for white people to come to their senses and free us, we would still all be slaves. Like, I know I can't do that. However, I do know that it is possible to be accountable and to have courageous conversations. Because here's the real truth. In the Black community, it is riddled with people who look just like this, who we love, but who are angels to some and monsters to others. And then it's this invisible war that we don't want to talk about. So you have a lot of women running around here, Black women who are hurting. And then we don't want to dig in and find out why. But we want to talk about depression, and we want to talk about, that's why I got to smoke all this weed, because we haven't created the space where we could talk about what's really bothering us, what's really going on. What do we do with people like this? What do we do about that? So I feel like you got to watch this movie for yourself. Now, what you may want to do, because I feel at the end, the guy asked this question, have you ever known anyone that's been violated or raped? And people were like, yes, blah, blah, blah. And then there's this sister at the end who says, we're always quick to ask that question, but have we ever asked someone, have you ever raped or violated anyone? And I feel like people have to ask themselves that question so that when they start reacting in a defensive mode on this man, they may be telling us that, hey, that's me. I've done this to somebody. I am doing this to somebody. Because that's the hard question we got to ask ourselves. How do we stop this shit from happening? Because it's happening as I'm talking on here now. It's happening right now. It's happening right now. Right now, it's happening. Right now, somebody's daughter, somebody's son, this is happening to, and we're ignoring it because, it may mess up your rent money, or you may be in love with this person. They may got the good joystick. I don't know. So we're going to act like we don't see it. Like, y'all, come on. It's a whole culture that we got to discuss here. And let me just say this. It doesn't mean that all the stuff that Mr. Cosby attempted to give Black folks, because this is so multifaceted, because, as I was watching this and they were talking about, and you have to watch it because it was giving you it was like two tracks playing at the same time. One is his career and all the things he's did and his plan to help Black people. Beautiful. But then as he was doing this, there was another track where he was doing some other stuff. It's kind of like when we see people and we see them out front and they just look beautiful, and then the person that's behind them is like, you don't know how crazy this person is. We're like, no, I know him. We've been watching him on TV for 30 years, but you ain't been behind this man for 30 years. So you don't really know. All you know is the presentation. That's all you know. And what I'm saying is we got to be willing to really take people for their whole face value. You know what I mean? We got to be willing to say, how do we stop? Because I feel like if we want to stop what we see with Black people and Black girls and women, because here's the thing, we're the first line of defense for Black people, because you have to come through a woman to get here, or a girl to get here. Like, you live inside of us for 9 months, the woman. So a lot of stuff, like, you spend a lot of time in me, and then I have to nurture you to survive once you get here. And so You know, we got to really talk about this, family. And it don't mean, because I really believe in Bill Cosby's head. This is my honest to God truth. As I was watching this, I was really trying to like I was really thinking, because I really like Bill Cosby. I grew up watching all of his stuff. Like, I don't know about y'all, but when I was coming up, when I felt like black folks was in color, I remember seeing him. Like, he just was so vivid to me. Like, I enjoyed watching Bill Cosby and all of them. You understand what I'm saying? But I also feel like people have flaws. And if we don't give people room to say their truth and say who they are, we could possibly be in trouble. You know, I think about when I've talked with people who were in the Black Power movement. I've done a lot of interviews. And I asked them when they was in the midst of the movement, why couldn't they spot the traitors? Or why couldn't they tell if somebody was an agent? Because, you know, you're a kid, you asking these questions at the time I was. And they was like, we weren't even thinking of it. We wouldn't look at a person and see them that way. So we weren't really looking for that. We just thought we was all trying to get free. So you could kind of just slide in and just start doing stuff. You know, I also felt like there was a part of Bill Cosby in that documentary when he did that. They call it the pound cake speech. That's when he got on the stage at the NAACP dinner and talked really bad about poor black people and, just all kind of crazy stuff. And I thought to myself, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I've known some black folks that I love dearly who were elders who kind of felt disappointed in the next generation and how we were handling what they built up. You know what I mean? And they just felt bitter. You know what I mean? And part of me felt like maybe he was being bitter. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I also think that kind of showed a divide that we have in terms of classism inside of the black community that we don't talk about. That's another conversation we could be having. We also could talk about the classism that black people do, like the colorism that black people do. Because as much as they wanted to, it's just people just play on us all the time. As much as we knew most of those accusers were white women, because Mr. Cosby had a type, he also, when they showed the women who were mixed race, who they wanted to pass off as black for the sake of this thing, they were really all mixed race women. And so I want to give them credit for being a mixture. They weren't just black, they were mixed with things. So we want to make sure we honor them in that space. Give them credit for that, because that's part of who they are. We family, just watch it for yourself. That's all I can tell you. Before you make statements about, the system, and this is the white man again trying to come for a successful black man, before we go into that whole spiel that we love to do so much, just go and watch it. Just watch it for yourself. Inform yourself. Act like it's the latest shoes that everybody's wearing and go check it out. Act like it's the reality TV show people love to watch. Go check it out. Act like it's Black Panther third return and go check it out. Inform yourself. Because here's what I have learned over the years. I think the biggest lesson that stuck with me, that I learned, honestly, is that you really got to see it for yourself. Because even if we felt like it was a bunch of lies, the truth is always there. It is always present. It is always present. And there were times in that documentary where I was like, something's wrong here. And we can't deny it. And then there were times where it was like, this man has some issues going on. You could see it, family. You could see it. And I want us as a people, if that's a such thing, because I'm not really sure about us as a people anymore. I'm just going to be flat out honest. Sometimes I get really uncomfortable in talking about it like that because I don't think Black people are one people. I just don't. But for the sake of this, I'm going to kind of say this statement that we have to create a space that if that is somebody's story, if they are a person who's been victimized, we want them to feel comfortable enough and supported enough, to tell us. But if you are a person that has been the victimizer, if you've been a rapist, if you've been a molester, if you've been an abuser, that you would feel enough courage to tell the truth so that you can get some help. And that we can protect other people first and foremost. Because I want people to be protected before I want to help you. We have to protect people. And we have not protected people in our community because we want to throw in all of this other shit that it's real, but it don't mean nothing if you can't protect the people. You know, if we want to have healthier children in our community, if we want to lower our infant mortality rate, if we want to lower and eliminate Black women being murdered every 6.5 hours in the U.S., if we want to lower the disrespect level of Black women, where people have created whole platforms of just talking all kind of crazy shit about Black women, even murder, then we have to create something better, a better environment, not something, but a better environment where we could talk about those hard issues. I would hope that this film, We Need to Talk About Cosby, will help us have the courage to just talk about it, period. I just hope that he's been a catalyst. I think Mr. Cosby he was going to always be an amazing man. What's going to make him super amazing at this point is that he's multifaceted. He's not just one man who did like one thing. He has been in all of the spectrums. You know what I mean? He's been everywhere. And so as we talk about the Black excellence that he presented to us, we also talk about that predator, that Black predator. And sometimes they are the same person. They are in that same energy. And I think Black folks are brave enough where we can have that real conversation of what do we do with the people who are like this in our community? No matter how great they are, no matter how many programs they give us, no matter how much they come and save your kids, no matter how much they help you pay your rent, no matter how much they help you babysit your child and help you get child care, no matter how many awards they give you, no matter what they've done that was great and good and awesome. If they done something that's not good, we have to deal with them. We have to deal with them, family. We have to take control and, help to have a safer community and safer environments where people feel like they have to just leave Black folks because we don't do such a good job of protecting each other from each other. You know, it can't always be that this person fed me. It can't always be, well, I mean, this person raped me, but, they helped me pay my rent. Well, this person, helped thousands of people. So I guess him doing something to me, I guess that's okay. We know that this issue is humongous in the Black community. And we don't get to hide under white supremacy. We don't get to hide under colorism. We don't get to hide under classism. We don't get to hide under any of the isms. We just don't get to hide. We get to be courageous. We get to basically set this right so that the next generation won't have to deal with living 40, 50, 60 years with a person who we know is a predator. Watch the documentary. Watch the documentary. I was listening to somebody this morning, and this Negro was I could tell he hadn't watched it because he was giving the same talking points. And then it made me think this fool could be guilty of doing some of this shit because he was so dismissive of the act. that happens every day, every hour, every second in our community. He was so quick to dismiss it. And I thought to myself, this fool done probably raped somebody before. He definitely has probably sexually harassed somebody. Because just the way he was plugging away at it was very telling. He was he acted like he had just like broken somebody's cigarette. Like it didn't really mean nothing. So, family, if you haven't watched it, please watch it. I'm interested in having a discussion with folks who've seen it. There's just so many things, family. This person is more or less he made it a point to tell me that the guy who happens to be a black man who produced this, that he's married to a white woman. Does that matter? I don't know. I don't know if people who are married to white people can talk to black people about being black. I don't know. But I think that would be a great discussion. The why we say stuff like that. Why do we say stuff like that? Maybe we need to talk more about what we think that means and why we say it. I'm just saying. But I think nothing should be off the table. I think how you dispel bad myths is that you discuss them and you break it all the way down. But for some reason in our community, we are afraid to do that. But we need to, because that's how you educate people, but that's also how you dismiss things, is that you discuss it, you talk about it. I don't know about y'all, but I'm 50 years old. And I just know I've been exposed to a lot of great elders with a lot of wisdom that they share with me. And then I have to act like, which I'm proud to do, that I was listening. And I think we could have this conversation. We don't get to just act like it's okay that people in our community are hurting and that every 6 hours in America, a black woman and girl is murdered by someone who looks like her. We don't get to hide under white supremacy. We don't get to hide under racism. We get to turn that mirror around and we get to look at ourselves. Check this out, y'all. You got to watch it. Until next time.